For those watching live, I'm Barry Schwartz. I'm the, SEO news editor at Search Engine Land, and this is our XMX Live with Search Engine Land. Hope you are enjoying XMX Next. If you were watching my keynote this morning, I actually went to every single one of those locations in the background, and I traveled around the world very quickly and did it all. No, it was a green screen, if you couldn't tell. But this is going to be more exciting, more useful, hopefully. We have real live SEOs with real live experience doing SEO, both in the old-fashioned SEO world, where we started off doing SEO back before Google, as well as in the enterprise world. So a lot of these SEOs have been around for a really long time. Not that they're old, but they started when they were 14 or so. And I'm really excited to have them all. So just a quick heads up, Todd, who will introduce himself, first, will be leaving a little bit into this call early. He has some business he has to take care of, but thank you for joining. And let's go through the speaker list. So Todd, if you could please, tell us about yourself, your name, where you work, and so forth.
Sure. Well, my name's Todd Friesen. I'm the director of SEO as well as a variety of digital projects at Salesforce. I oversee qualitative user research and some of our gating practices for, gating, ungating offers and that sort of stuff. We were a grab bag of things. But I started originally as an SEO back in 98, early 99, back in those days, when there was, to even call it SEO, we were still I think we had just about finished fighting over what to call it at that point in time, and started off doing in the affiliate spammer space. And I'll own that. It's certainly no secret. I was sort of one of the first spammers to even go out on the circuit talking about building websites around phentermine and other diet pills and things like that, and moved through that world selling a whole bunch of different things, and then sort of shed that persona, moved into the agency world, bounced through a few different agencies for a number of years, and then wound up at Salesforce just about 7.5, coming up on 8 years ago. Been running SEO and like I say, sort of expanding my career there into a variety of other disciplines.
Excellent. Really happy you could be here. Thank you for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Carolyn, can you go up next, please?
I can. My name is Carolyn Shelby. I am currently the lead SEO, head of SEO at ESPN. So I find things wrong with the technical SEO, and then I try to fix it. It's a fun job. Keeps me very busy. We're a part of the Disney Corporation, but I don't actually work on many of the other Disney properties. I just focus on ESPN. I do get to take my kids to Disney World, though, which is the entire reason why I took the job. I started in 1994, and I co-founded an internet service provider, and we started building websites for ourselves and for our clients, including one of the first newspapers to go online, the Journal and Courier. We wrote the program that intercepted the news before it hit the printing press, turned it into HTML, put it on the web. So as things came along that started ranking websites, being a very competitive person, I just started doing things to make sure I would outrank the people that I didn't like. And that was really my entire start in SEO, was just making sure that I was beating people that I didn't like. After I sold my company, I moved to some in-house jobs, chilled out at a medical society for a while, but always doing, building the websites and trying to help them rank. Did a little agency, but eventually ended up back in-house. I did 7 years at Tribune Publishing, and I ran the LA Times and Chicago Tribune and 9 other daily newspapers. And then after that, wound down because you know how the newspaper industry is. I ended up at ESPN, and that's where I've been ever since.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. I really do appreciate it. 1994. So Eric, where were you in 1994?
In the womb.
I was in high school. I'm not that young. I just have the Asian gene. So I'm the VP of product growth at Honey Science. We are a PayPal company. You might know us for our Chrome extension that helps people save money through coupons and whatnot. I'm responsible for various parts of our growth, not just SEO, but kind of things in paid search, as well as email and all the different marketing aspects, as well as just thinking about behavioral economics and how we can apply that to product in general. I consider myself the second generation of SEOs, and not like Todd and Carolyn here. Like, I got started right around like near the end of 2000, where Google actually existed at that point, having used, Inktomi and Alta Vista as a consumer, not really having optimized for those. And worked my way through Realtor.com, Edmunds, AT&T, Yellow Pages, a bunch of large brands. And then more recently, I've been working with a lot of smaller startups, and having gone through that world. I've had the benefit of both being in-house as well as helping on the consulting side, helping large brands like Uber, TripAdvisor, and Pinterest. So I've got a pretty good view of different things around the industry, which is nice.
Awesome, great. So like you, when in 1994, I was also in high school, so you're not alone there. But I joined the SEO industry as a baby, so I've kind of been involved for a long time there. Not as long as Carolyn or Todd. So thanks again for joining us. This morning's keynote, just a quick summary. If you haven't seen it, check it out. XMX Next. I basically gave a talk about 20 or so years of Google algorithm updates. It wasn't really algorithm updates 20 years ago, but you can see the keynote for that. Let's talk a little about the early days. This is before real algorithm updates. It was like Google Dances. So I don't know if you guys remember, you used to go to like Webmaster World and like refresh and see which data centers IP addresses were actually updating their PageRank scores. Todd, I think you were oilman there. Carol, I don't know what your name was, but what do you remember most about those days?
I was
Seashell, okay. So what do you remember most about those days?
Back with the monthly update, right? I mean, my very first business card I ever designed when I had my little tiny thing was called Oilman Promotions, and it was a picture of a dude hiding under a desk. It signified what we went through for about 3 or 4 days every time Google updated the algorithm, and you just wait and see if you wound up at number 1. I was still doing pills then, and I was still selling prescription medication online. I was not doing pills, as it were. And you would just like grit your teeth and just wait and see if you were going to be number 1 for Phenermine all week or all month, or if you were going to be kicked out for the whole month. And then you would know exactly how much money you were going to make that month, or not make. And then you would work furiously to try and get something back there the next month. It was awesome and terrifying all at once.
I remember weeping. Something would flip from 1 to like 7, and I was just beside myself and stopped. My mom thought someone ran over my cat, and I tried to explain to her what was wrong, and she'd be like, "You need to pull yourself together and get a job." It's like, I don't understand.
So do you prefer those? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I had my entire network of medication sites. The entire thing wiped out overnight during one of those updates, and that was the end of. That was just about the end of affiliate marketing for me. That's when I started looking around to do something else in the space.
That was what year approximately, you said?
That was
which update?
Probably 2005-ish. I don't know. It's all blurry to go that far back at this point. So
it wasn't for the Florida update, which was in 2003. It was before. It was after the Florida update.
Yeah, I made it through Florida.
You made it through Florida. Cool. And back then, it was literally, if you had a PageRank score of like 8 or 9, you could rank for whatever you wanted to, right? That was like the answer.
Yep.
It was not about content. 7, only 7.
Well, you go get that one link off of Weather Underground or whatever else for $1,000 a month, and it paid off in like 2 days.
Yeah, the old
I had a link from the homepage of Purdue University.
I don't know about y'all, but like, I was working for the city of San Diego. I thought I had a control over, like, we had like all these like subdomain sites. Even though we had decent PageRank, I could not get like link value to pass through these .gov sites because like one of the bigger things at San Diego was that we had to try to get the San Diego Fire Department SDFD.gov, or I forget what it was, like to outrank a porn site. Like I was basically telling my friends, I'm like, look, like I got into SEO because of porn, but not because of like the regular way. It was basically trying to get like the fire department to like outrank this porn site.
You can do it. I got a site to outrank the FTC. So
I actually had a site. I actually outranked H&R Block for its own name during tax season for a whole season.
sweet.
But this was a simple affiliate site. They didn't pay me. They said it was some type of violation of their affiliate stuffing. Any event, those are old stories. But before Todd leaves, which I think is in about next 5 minutes or so, is there any specific algorithm update that you remember the most by name?
I mean, Florida. I think that's like for those of us that sort of go all the way back, like that. Florida was the one I think that's just that is going to forever, be one of the things that started to change the face of SEO. I mean, nothing on that scale had ever happened. It'd been this incremental, like we found a hole, they plugged a hole. We found a hole, they plugged a hole. It was this cat and mouse game that went on for a long time, and then Florida came along and went, hey, we found a whole bunch of you, get out of our index. And it was like when the Death Star blew up Alderaan, if I can be super geeky, and all the voices of the SEOs that cried out and were silenced. That was Florida as far as I'm concerned.
Carolyn, was there anything bigger than that in the history of Google algorithm updates?
Bigger, I don't think so, but maybe seismically similar within the memory span of the newer generation. Panda was a big one, and it did spawn a lot of really cutesy videos of people dancing for some reason, and so it forever soiled the reputation of that glorious, magnificent mammal. Panda I think was a big one, and the whole thin content and taking out the content farms, I think it was a good thing, I think, for the universe. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't, but I think that's probably the next closest one within memory.
Same for me, Panda. I mean, if you need to, I don't want to rehash the interview that Barry and I did, but go check out seroundtable.com, best website on the internet. We did. Basically, I talked about. I talked about a Panda. So like for me, it was Panda 2, just because I was at Demand Media, and we were basically the reason, like one of the reasons Panda made that update, right? Like Google made that update. It was directly aimed at us. So I won't forget those late evenings, weekends, because we were a publicly traded company at that point. I think we went from like $1 billion market cap to like $600 million market cap overnight. It was pretty nuts.
I had forgotten that it was you guys.
It's them and Mahalo. Right?
I mean, they hit the spinners first, and we were not spinners.
Sure.
We actually created unique content. We just created a lot of unique content that looked very similar to one another.
Yep. Oh yeah, I remember that. It was, but I'm going to soapbox here for a second, because this is going somewhere, right? So we get to this point. They're saying, "Hey, make content." We're all like, "Okay, fine, we can do that." And then it was like, "Hey, well, we can spin it. We can just create stuff. And we can, come up with these programs." So we started basically just polluting the internet with stuff, right? Because Google said, "Hey, we're moving away from this link thing. We want actual content at the end of these things. We want it to be different. You can't all have a duplicate. We're going to do a thing about this," and on and on and on, right? And then, okay, no, that's not good enough. So we really want you to do better content. So then we started doing better content. No, we want you to do even better content. We want it to be longer, right? Fine. We start doing better content. We start doing longer content. And then we've gotten to a point now where Google's like, "Thank you for all that awesome content and answering all of those questions." Because then they were like, "You know what? You know how to get into those rich snippets that everybody wants? How to, listicles, on and on and on." So we were like, "Okay, cool. We'll start doing that," because, we're not, evil spammers anymore. And so we started doing all of that stuff because they conditioned us for all of those years to do those things. And now we're at a point where they're like, thank you for doing all of that. Thank you for answering questions. Thank you for making lists. Thank you for putting in all these knowledge graph tags and on and on and on. Because now we don't even have to send people to your websites. We can just put that right on our search result page. So we really appreciate that, SEOs.
I gotta say, I miss you.
They gamed us long term, man.
I miss you, Todd, on stage. I miss you with Carolyn. I miss you with Greg Bozer. I miss those conversations where you're sitting next to Matt Cutts from Google and being like, this is what you're making us do. You're making us do this, and it's going to benefit you. And you knew this was coming. You kept seeing this happening. And no matter what you said, it didn't make a difference. You have to do it. Is there an alternative?
Right.
No.
Right. We had no alternative but to do all of that. And we all knew it was going to really get us at one point. And I don't think anybody, I mean, I think some people started to see it, but it was really hard to see that all of a sudden it's going to be search result pages that keep 50% of the clicks. And
but even if you see it, you can't do anything about it.
Right. Absolutely. You cannot do anything about it because you still have to go do all that stuff because they're going to put somebody else's.
And we need their traffic. And that's what it comes down to.
Or they're going to put somebody else's snippet in there. And you at least want the brand recognition. Like now a search result page is almost like buying an ad on television.
And that was the thing in the beginning, like way back, mid 90s, that everyone was, the internet's great. It's going to level the playing field. It's reducing the barrier to entry for everybody. You can be a goldfish in your mom's basement and nobody's going to know, and you can run this fantastic business because the barrier to entry is so low. And the barrier to entry is back up high where it used to be. And, it was great for a while, but we can't have nice things.
True. Somebody, Rand, not the big famous Rand, commented in the chat here. He goes, Todd, you missed mentioning disavow links, right? They also got us to like disavow all the link networks, and then they just catalog all that. But I will say for the record, I have never one time in my entire 20, almost 2 years of doing this, disavowed a link. Not one time. They can go find all their own link networks. That's on them.
There was a time in the SEO community where nobody snitched on each other. There was nobody reporting anybody. It was like we were a tight-knit community. But now that even the old school SEOs, no offense, Todd or Caroline, sold out and now went to corporate world. Sorry. But it's a different community now, and it's more. We're adults, right? We grew up in this industry. The internet grew up, and SEO grew up, and Google grew up as well, along with it. And now, I mean, I don't know when you have to leave, Todd, but I'm trying to get these questions in fast before you get out of here. I mean, what is the strategy? I mean, my keynote was basically, why am I going through 20 years of history? Just to show the trend, where Google was going and what they want the search results to look like, and where they want to take their content from, and potentially link to that content. And what type of content is that? Like, what's the best type of content out there that you think you have to be in for the next Google update?
I will answer really quick ahead of my fellow panelists, and then I will say a quick farewell as well. I do have to get back to a meeting that is ongoing, unfortunately. But at the risk of Barry calling me a sellout one more time on this call, the answer is we're doing top flight content. Like really, really good content. And part of that is, it's not just that's really what I do believe Google wants. And we do the keyword research. We do all the technical stuff behind the scenes, and we make sure we have some of the, even though people will argue H1s aren't important. So I always believe, give the page structure, give it all of those things that we've built up over the years. So the title is important, the H2 is important, the body, all that stuff. But I also work for a company that is known for its quality of product, its quality of marketing, its quality of, all of that kind of stuff. So we can't even put out thin content or poorly written content if I wanted to, which also kind of saves us from, even going down that road. But I wouldn't do it at this point. It's just, it's not going to work anymore. And the content, everybody's content has gotten good. So it's not that it's Google just even wants you to still see good content. I still don't think they're actually that good at algorithmically identifying good content versus not good content, long versus short and things like that. I think we're down with, but everybody's doing it. And when you get into spaces like in the worlds of bigger corporations and stuff like that, in the news, ESPN, Salesforce, Honey, people expect they're not going to go to that site, read crappy content and convert or be engaged. They're going to go, who wrote this piece of crap? And they're going to move on because, you know, the bar has been set and we're stuck there.
Thank you. I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate you doing this. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Eric, Carolyn. A pleasure sharing the virtual stage with you as always. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. All right, Carolyn, what do you think based on what Todd was kind of leaving us with in terms of investing in content?
My opinion is that Google is moving towards, it's not, because good is subjective, what they're looking for is something that's going to make the user not have to think, not give them time to think about things. You need to anticipate what it is they want, sometimes before they even know what they want, and make sure you have that answer and that experience ready and fast for them in exactly the format they want it in. Because, and actually I found this great stat that I used in a deck earlier this year, that people would literally electrocute themselves in favor of not having to sit with themselves in silence for 15 seconds. Like, people are that impatient and crazy. So the trick is just make sure that you know what your users, your target audience wants, and hand it to Google on a silver platter and make it easy for Google to ingest it and dice it up and do what they want with it. And maybe if you're lucky, they will send people to your website so that the user can continue to experience, that thing that they want.
Yeah,
so
I just want to echo that.
Yeah, it's just super subjective.
Yeah, like similar sentiment, right? Like, although I don't want to disagree with Todd now that he's off the air. It seems
disagree with him.
Crass.
It's okay.
But basically, like, I mean, I've seen what I would say, like, in modern time, if we're talking about algo changes, I would say like rank brain is probably the biggest thing that we've seen, right? Like this fundamental shift. Panda was the initial piece of moving things from a heuristic model to a machine learned model. And now with like basically almost all the algorithms seemingly are on machine learning, who knows really, but like it seems that way. The idea of like short form content, long form content, in some ways, I don't really care if my article is short, as long as I'm doing what Carolyn is saying, is that I'm addressing that user need immediately and fitting them to the persona that's coming in, right? When you think about things like traditionally like W3 schools, like if you're learning how to program, like, and W3 schools ranks #1, if you're a true developer, you're laughing like, why is this site ranking #1? Like, everybody knows that you go to like Mozilla's developer network to actually see the real legitimate code. But the vast majority of people aren't trying to be developers. They're trying to hack their way through a piece of code. So the W3 schools creates an experience that fits the majority of the user's needs. And that's what ranks really well. So my approach around content creation has really been understanding your audience and then the audience that you want to go after. And don't try to like reach everybody as much as like the SEO in me wants to say, yeah, like I want to own every single keyword phrase and be #1 for every single phrase. I know that's not going to be the reality in being able to build a really good user experience for the people who are really going to generate me the most revenue.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know I quote Googlers a lot, and a lot of SEOs, especially old school SEOs, think that you can't really trust what Googlers necessarily say. And some new SEOs feel the same way. But I know John Mueller has said numerous times, it's not about the length of the content. It's if the content is something that your users want to see. Even if it's short, it still can answer the query and still can provide the best possible answer. So, yeah.
The really gnarly part about that is like, some of this stuff is this is what drives link bait or clickbait, right? Like creating some of these experiences, sometimes I do feel like, am I doing a disservice to the internet as a whole? Because I know
Probably.
I'm giving the user what they want, even though what they want is probably not what they should actually need or really want. But it's like I'm delivering on that rat brain mentality. Cool. I put all the funny things, like, coming from demand, where we used to create articles of like how to drink 8 glasses of water to lose weight, how to drink 7 glasses of water to lose weight, how to drink 9 glasses of water to lose weight. We were hitting exactly the exact phrase match that the user wanted. And then Google penalized us for like meeting that exact need. And then nowadays, if you actually create content that exactly matches that user's queries, that whole feedback loop of the user experience is a positive feedback loop. And those things actually rank. So in some ways, if I were to respin up the demand media model and not go to the same extreme, it would actually play really well in today's Google, at least in my opinion.
I think it probably would. I think what they do is they overreact to squish behaviors they don't like and train that out of us. Like when my ex-husband would bother me and I would immediately call up my lawyer and go back to court about something, I trained him that when he talked to me, it cost him money. So, eventually he stopped talking to me and it was wonderful. And I kind of think that that's what they're doing. They see a behavior that we found works and everybody starts replicating it. They don't like that. So they pick somebody and they come down with the fiery fist of God. And then everyone's like, oh, better not do that anymore. But then if you kind of do it on the sly and stay off the radar, you're like, you know what, that still kind of works.
For sure. It's an interesting world. And yeah, you're right. If our searchers want to know how you could drink 7 glasses of water and lose weight, we should be able to provide that. And in today's Google's world, based on everything that Google says, it's the perfect storm is pre-Panda. So it's just interesting. But there was an issue with that, and it was basically article, ad, article, ad, click on these ads, and just spin you back to more search results. So Google had to do something, and they got a lot of bad press. That's why Google had to work on these Panda things. So it was very interesting to see them come out with that type of stuff. So we should probably get into, there's a lot of things I want to discuss with you guys. So yeah, what, let's just go on to this. So let's talk about like the future, because I know a lot of people who are watching this want to know about what to do with their websites today and tomorrow. So we know where Google is now. We know, these core updates. We know what we need to do to make our sites, the best for our user. Maybe it's about 7 cups of water. Maybe it's about 9 cups of water. We know that we have to serve the user. The question is, what does that mean exactly? How do we serve our users and show Google that we're serving our users through our content and our links and all the Google signals, YMYL, EAT, all this fun stuff that SEOs are talking about? What really matters? So, Eric, I'll put you on the spot first, because why not?
Yeah, like honestly, the more and more I get into SEO, the less and less I keep up with this YML, EAT, all that crazy stuff, because like in some ways it all becomes moot. It's all cyclical. Like in the end, the irony of it is that Google always says build for the user experience, provide the best user experience. And honestly, if you just do that, you actually will like have a sustainable strategy moving forward. For myself, like I actually don't even consider myself really much an SEO or a marketer. I consider myself a product manager first. And what that means is that I'm always considering the user experience first, no matter what it means for SEO. So if that means that I don't have like certain piece of schema, if I don't do a certain piece of technical SEO, like I don't mind, so long as that's providing a better user experience. And really, I'm just mapping out all the different aspects, but my use cases always start from when the user drops in from Google, right? I think product managers in general, they spend too much time thinking about the user came from our homepage, the user came from this particular page. That's not true. Everyone comes in from the side door from Google. So if you take the mindset of this person is typing in these words, and they're landing on this page, yeah, like the first level thinking is to say, okay, cool, we'll address that particular query by giving them the exact content that they're looking for. But you have to think second and third levels deeper, right? Kind of answering, hopefully I'm not taking too much from Carolyn, but like this idea of like, how do you actually solve the rest of their customer journey right then and there, right? It's my fundamental belief that because everything is so machine learned these days, Google is trying to figure out which one of these sites that is providing a great user experience is the one that we should rank, which in some ways can level that playing field where the smaller guy who is a little bit more nimble can actually create an experience that solves particular niche experiences. So the idea of I come in on a particular keyword phrase. The vast majority of people doing any kind of research, when you think about like any kind of funnel, they're doing top level research. They're going down that funnel until like near to the bottom of that funnel. Instead of them going back to Google every single time to find that next page, if you're able to solve that next user's intent, if you're able to predict what the user is going to do next and give them the appropriate options, that user is going to continue to stick with you. And what you're going to see is that in Google that you're going to be rewarded. Whether that's today, whether that's a month from now, 6 months now, from a year from now, in some ways it will, one, it'll happen, at least that's my fundamental belief. But even if it doesn't happen, hopefully you've built such a good user experience that you don't need Google anymore, right? You think about Amazon. Amazon is the biggest e-commerce search engine that there is. Yeah, they get a ton of Google traffic. Do you think they care about their Google traffic? Yeah, they probably have a person or two for like a company of that size. They don't really care about that traffic in some ways. So if you just take that slant, yes, you're going to need the traffic coming in from Google today. But if you taking that slant of improving that user experience, not only will you prepare yourself for what you can do with Google in the future, because Google's always going to be optimizing for sending people to the best user experience, but secondarily, you're just going to build a real business on your own.
It's interesting you say that because those watching may have known I have a personal blog, not Search Engine Land, it's a professional blog, but it's personal blog, Search Engine Roundtable, and it got hit by I got hit by many updates just because it's fun to do that. But I got hit by the last May core update. It was big. I think it was like a 30 to maybe 40% drop in Google organic traffic by getting hit by these core updates. Some people say more, some people say less. But what I noticed is after a few weeks, even though the Google traffic is still down, it seems like other traffic, like referral, direct, even social media is all going up, which is weird. And my traffic levels are really not that down that much at all. And I know there's a whole list of technical issues I could fix with the comments and pagination issues and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna leave it and see what happens, just because I don't care that much. And same thing happened when I got hit by one of the Panda updates, Panda 2 point whatever. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna leave it. And Google's like, well, maybe you should ask your users if you like your website. So I put a Google consumer survey poll on my website, and by far my users tend to like the website. So I published the results, and the next Panda update, it was fixed. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that for most people. I mean, most people who have businesses that they need to survive on, I wouldn't recommend just not doing anything. But usually, I assume, how long have you been at ESPN, Carolyn?
2 years.
2 years. So I assume you have a lot of competitors on the internet. Obviously, ESPN is one of the biggest brands in the area, but you have competitors, and you probably look at like, why is this competitor ranking above me for this keyword this day? And then after a core update or some updates, it swaps. And what strategies do you guys take on a higher level to make sure that you're always on top?
So most of the queries, we don't look at the universal results. I don't particularly look at the universal results on a regular basis. I focus more on the news results and the special results in mobile, like the top stories carousel, the video carousel, anything that's going to push the organic results down, because those change really rapidly. And that's where most of the traffic comes from. Because if you think about what it is we offer, the bulk of what we offer on the website is news. So what are we doing when we're writing and producing our news that can monopolize on those queries that trigger the special results, to make sure that we're prominent in those because no one's going to scroll past and go down to the organic listings. They don't care that much. If something happens with, Michael Jordan all of a sudden, that was pretty recent, no one is looking for his bio page with his lifetime stats. They want information on where to watch the documentary. So are we producing content that is relevant to those queries and then also easy for Google to ingest and return for those queries? That's the biggest thing I've been struggling with, is making sure that in this effort to add bells and whistles to the site and do all kinds of fun jazz, we're not accidentally kind of giving Google, the Heisman and telling them to back off when they have the choice of, am I going to get my news from ESPN, which is difficult for me to get to and complicated, or am I going to go to this competitor of theirs who's just handing it to me on a silver platter? They're going to go to our competitor, and it doesn't have anything to do with backlinks for news and for top stories. It has to do with how easy is it for them to get it, and which is a better experience. And that's really, and news is so fast. You get one shot at doing it. The news lives for like 48 hours, and then they're on to the next story. So I really pay attention to, have we done anything technically to impede the crawl or to make it more difficult for them to understand our content? And then I also do work with our content producers to make sure that, as much as I would love for all of them to win Pulitzers and be poetic and punny and witty in their storytelling, I do also need them to say some keywords. You can't say things like, is this redshirt freshman going to save the dynasty? Actual headline. Redshirt freshman in what sport? What dynasty? Mostly I don't know what sport. Like, you want to lure people in, but you still have to say what it is you're trying to rank for. So it's don't impede the crawl. Make sure you're making it as easy as possible for Google to get what it is that you're offering and that they can understand what it is you're talking about. And for us, that's the bulk of it right there. What Todd was saying, though, about making sure that you've got the fundamentals, even though people say like H1s don't matter, everything matters a little bit. It's like Olympic swimming. The difference between first place and second place is 3/100ths of a second. So everything all your ducks have to be in a row, and they all have to be ducks, right?
Awesome. We only have about 6 minutes left, so kind of move on to another similar topic. So it's interesting because back in the old days, going back to the old days always, because it was fun, we used to be obsessed about these algorithm updates. It was literally like, our update, what can we do? What can we do? And now it seems like the school of thought is, don't be bogged down by these updates. Stop obsessing about them. Just focus on your website, and it's obviously the Google talk as well. Stop focusing on these updates and focus more on your own website. The question I have for you guys is, what are SEOs getting wrong about these updates? Are they obsessing about certain things that they shouldn't be? Should they just stop looking at updates completely? I can start with Caroline.
What are they getting wrong? I think the thing that they get wrong the most is they blame everything that happens around the time of an update on the update. For example, I think it was October that we had the rank brain update, right? Was it August? I forget which month it was.
Rank brain
Anyway,
when a certain time, and then they said that we launched that 6 months ago, so it was hard to nail that one down.
When it got announced, I think we were in the middle of, we had accidentally introduced a problem into our AMP pages, and news really only looks at the AMP pages. So we had flatlined, and then the rank brain update was announced, and literally everyone was blowing up my Slack going, oh my God, it's the Google update. That's what did it. It's like, no, you need to calm down. I assure you, this has nothing to do with this. We broke something else. No, it was the update. It was the update. So you can't, just because an update is announced doesn't mean you got hit by it. You could have literally broken something else. Like, you have to have a change log. You have to know what changes you made and when, and be able to very definitely correlate I've made 0 changes and we lost 40% of our traffic, and we lost 40% of our traffic on the same day that this update was announced. Okay, yeah, that's probably the update. I made 80 changes the week before the update. We lost the traffic 2 days before the update. Probably not the update. So people think that, oh, Google announced an update, all my problems must be this, I'm going to blame it on that, and we're going to chase that. You're not chasing the right problem.
Right,
I
and that's true because Google's algorithms are constantly changing as well. And it's funny because we had this recently with the no follow hint change, where
Yeah.
SEOs were like, "Oh, Google said on March 1st they're going to change and maybe respect crawling and indexing for no follow links." And I'm like, I don't think that's the case. Let me ask Google if they did anything with that. They're like, no, we really haven't done anything yet with that. So all those theories around no follow being, an impact on it for around March 1st, around the March core update versus the no follow update, was completely inaccurate. So I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
Well, I mean, I think SEOs are spending too much time trying to figure out like what correlation matches the algorithm update, right? Like the more and more you think about, like back in the day, yeah, like when the updates happened, like you could clearly see strong correlation between one thing or another, right? But if you understand machine learning more and more, like the weighted values of these things, the behavior doesn't happen on all the sites similarly or the same way, right? And so that's why you get like certain weird behaviors where like, well, why is this site up and why is that site up? Like, who cares, right? Like, I think people are spending way too much time trying to figure out like what's correlated with what. You should just in general know that, okay, it's affecting this type of activity or this type of area. And then just look at your site objectively, right? Really take a look at it like where you don't work there and you're not sitting there thinking like I should be outranking my competitors. Really take a hard look at your own product, your own content, your own experience, and say, is this truly better than my competitor in all cases? And if not, just make those improvements. And honestly, like I feel some of the algorithm updates more recently, they're kind of like Panda of old, right? Which is like kind of this, machine learned. We are going to roll this thing out, call it a core update. It's effectively like when Panda rolled out, right? And you're basically going to see like big flux, and you're not going to be able to see like you really change too much until the next core update really rolls around. It's not to that same extreme as the days of Panda where you literally had to like rush to make a bunch of changes and then hope that like the next update you got that corrected. But a lot of the core updates and the algorithm changes today are very similar to that. And if you look at the patterns, like in the last few core updates, you can look and see that they deployed some change. It was clearly bad for the internet, and like a lot of people were upset. And then the next update, things went back and reverted because they not necessarily rolled back their code, but they tweaked a lot of it and probably rolled back some of it, right? Fed that data all back into the machine learning algorithm again, got new weights, and then rolled it back again. And then the people that got penalized, that should have got penalized, like they basically dropped, and the ones that we're expecting to be there stayed there, right? So in some ways, it's like this. It's a different type of Google dance these days, right? It's not the IP index change. It's the algorithm goes one way, and it's like regression to the mean. They're going this pendulum swinging kind of like activity. So
Awesome.
at least those are
Very
my
good.
thoughts.
We have like no time left, but I'm very curious. If you had to release a Google algorithm update, one small little change, for me, I'll give you an idea. Mine is I wish sites, especially news-related sites that posted like fresh-related content that didn't have dates on it, I wish Google would not rank them at all. I want a date in an article. That's my thing. I wish Google released a penalty for sites that do not put dates on their articles, assuming it's not evergreen content, it's article content. That's my personal pet peeve. What's yours, Carolyn? Yes.
Oh my God, with news, I wish that putting an updated time was you actually had to update the story and not just tweak the headline and tweak the lead. That so much rage. I have so much rage about this right now. I wish that it was a system that that didn't allow for so much deceit.
Awesome.
I'm just going to second Caroline. Just the idea of like old URLs holding their value just because you just keep on updating the date and the time, the headline. That's just
It's funny because
infuriating and just not good for the internet.
Google supposedly worked on something for that, and I guess not. If you guys are so upset about it, so interesting.
No, like,
Awesome.
but in the news, I have a competitor who I won't name, but he knows who he is. They, you know, it'll be like the homecoming parade for the Patriots. Patriots homecoming parade, you know, passing 2nd Street. Patriots homecoming parade passing 3rd Street. Like stupid updates that mean nothing just so that they stay at the top of the cluster. And it,
Sounds like the Panda days. All right, we went all full circle right there. So thank you so much for doing this. Todd, you're not here. Thank you. He's at Salesforce. Eric, where can people follow you and learn more about you?
Twitter, EYWU.
Awesome. And Carolyn, where should people follow you if you want them to?
I'm on Twitter. It's CSHEL, Seashell, because I'm clever like that. But I'm kind of all over the place. So
awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. And be well, be safe. Have a great day.
bye.